And within a matter of 2 months, Joe Biden went with the most secure border ever to historic illegal immigration. So he opened the floodgates.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum.
Biden has created this border crisis by allowing these folks to come across our border, and that has been detrimental to our country.
They have deliberately opened the border to fundamentally change the fabric of our country.
Now Americans across the country are bracing for the end of Title 42 as thousands of migrants wait along the Mexican side of the border.
Officials telling NBC News most migrants are now being released into the U.S.
It is becoming harder and harder not to conclude that the border crisis is intentional.
We have over 200,000 illegal aliens that have been flown in from their home country directly into the U.S.
Nearly 2,000 migrants were moved from Floyd Bennett Field to James Madison High School, forcing those students there to learn remotely yesterday.
I see towers here with cameras mounted. And how many of these do they have down the
Oh, a bunch of them.
Frequency?
All over the place.
And do any of them work?
No.
The last president obviously was very firm in, I'm going to build a wall.
We will build the wall, don't worry. We will build the wall.
Majority of these people are fighting-age men. We are watching as we're being invaded.
We have untold numbers of terrorists who have entered our country.
When we were getting ready, I just got a call from some intel that there's possibly 20 to 50 Pakistani nationals possibly on the terror watch list coming through right behind us here in Eagle Pass, where a federal judge has ordered the Biden administration to stop cutting that razor wire and allowing the illegals to come in.
When I was living in Iran, their teachings is about destroying America, and they believe that they will destroy America within. You can't put the policy of your country in the hands of evil people.
That brings us back to the realization that elections have consequences.
All of the horrible things that an open border means. What I'm most angry about, 2-year-old girl crossing the river on top of his father's shoulders. Joe Biden, you can go straight to hell.
President Trump, I believe we need to stand behind him and support him before it's too late.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday, and that trailer right there is from Veterans for America First, aka Veterans for Trump. And that's our new documentary. I'm part of that organization, and the national spokesman for that organization is retired Admiral Chuck Kubic. He's with us by audio, and Admiral Kubic, thanks for joining us on the Rob Maness Show. Talk a little bit about when the movie is going to premiere. I don't think it's out completely in public yet, and let folks know where they'll be able to find it before we dive into the details as to why.
Yeah, hey, it's great to be with you today, Rob. Sorry that I've got some sort of a Murphy bug here with my my video, but we're going to be premiering the movie at on Saturday evening, the 9th of March, and we're going to be doing this in just south of Atlanta, in Fayetteville, Atlanta, and it'll be starting around 6 o'clock. We have a number of speakers. The movie runs for about an hour, and then we'll be taking questions and answers afterwards. And then it'll be, available on streaming services. I don't have those at my fingertips right now, and online at our website so that they can basically go on and download. I think there'll be a small donation with the site, but we can get that information, to you as to how they go onto the streaming channel of the website and download it.
Well, thank you for that, Admiral. And I will add to that it's going to be on Patriot.tv. I don't know what the schedule for the broadcasting will be yet, but we do know that the folks over at Veterans for Trump have offered it to us to be able to screen it right here on the network, and I look forward to that. It looks like it's going to be a great presentation. I don't really need to ask you, but for the sake of the audience that might see and hear this, Admiral Kubic, why the topic of the border invasion? What's driving that choice to do this documentary and get it released now? Because we're right after Super Tuesday. Mr. Trump's now the nominee. It's time to focus on the general. And I know that we're all about prioritizing what the issues are going to be that the American people care about. So why border invasion?
Well, I'll tell you, Rob, this is the second in a series of 3 documentaries, where the first one was released last November, and it was called "The Fall of Deceit," which talked about the corruptness of the judicial system in Washington, D.C., focused around some of the events that have happened there in the past, and the reaction to January 6th. Again, calling attention to people who know about this, but seeing the intimate details of that. The second is this video documentary on the border, realizing that it's been with us, this problem, for 3 years, but there are just a few people now, or some people, that are awakening to it. A lot of us know about it, but the vast majority of Americans, I think it gets lost in the noise of the daily news or their daily lives. And then we'll be producing a third one, which will be a call to action for veterans across America to speak up and to come to the aid of our country. So this one is highlighting a crisis which affects us all, but which people don't really know a lot about it. They don't recognize that it's been going on for 3 years. They don't see necessarily how serious it is, both to the security of our country and to those particularly unaccompanied minors, younger children who are being human trafficked. So it's coming out here now to basically have people well aware of what the choice is in November between a president who protected our border and another president who has basically opened it to everyone in the world, including many who are here to do us harm.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the questions that I have is why more people don't understand what's happening there. At the end of the trailer, the gentleman is there at the border, at the river, the Rio Grande River. I'm assuming near Eagle Pass is what it looked like to me, but I wasn't sure. But he issues an emotional challenge to Joe Biden, telling him he can go to hell because he's worried about these kids, these 2-year-old kids that parents or whoever, we don't even know who these people are that bring these little kids through that concertina wire, across the Rio Grande River, all the way up through sometimes from the Darien Gap in Panama, and before that by foot they're at risk of sexual assault, drug use, murder. I mean, there's millions of clothing items, ID cards, and shoes, bodies found on the trail, and the American people don't seem to be that aware, unless maybe that gentleman was because he lives at the border, that it's such an emotional thing for him. We need all Americans to see this issue through his eyes, don't we? And people like him.
Absolutely. And to understand, this isn't something that just started happening the last several months of the last year. I've been down to the border many times. My company has been teamed with a construction company from Texas, and we have been building border wall, including border wall down there, near the in the Rio Grande Valley, up until President Biden shut us down. But many a nights I would take people out to places like La Jolla, which used to be a hot spot as well, to see how this was being handled. And Rob, it's sickening, because it had gotten to the point where it was so random, and the Border Patrol was working so many overtime shifts, being called back from their homes to basically handle and process all these, I'm going to call them criminal migrants, coming across, that it got to the point where the cartel was actually running what I would call a boutique travel agency, a travel service. And they got to the point where they started calling the Border Patrol and telling them when and where there was going to be crossings, so the Border Patrol could plan their shift, work, and how many people had to be on at midnight, for example. I was there one time when probably was in the range of 30 to 40 that came across. One guy who had tried to come across several times, they put a wristband on him, the cartel, and if they don't get across the first time, they get sent back. They get 3 tries. Well, the Border Patrol started cutting off those wristbands. When he was coming back, he was shot. He was there. He had been shot in the leg, but he made it. But the sad part, the emotional part, were about a half a dozen unaccompanied minors. Some teenage boys in their ages of 15, 16, maybe 17, but also a young girl by herself, age 12. And I, speak a little Spanish and was talking to them to find out their names, their ages. And then I asked a question, where are your mother and father? To a person, they kind of sunk their heads and teared up, and their answer was, we don't know. And the young lady who was there, the young girl, it was clear that she was just totally traumatized. And when you see this and you realize that there's 85,000 minimum that have been released into our country, and we don't know who they are, where they are, or what has happened to them, and yet it doesn't get covered. It doesn't get covered by the news. It's not in people's faces every day. And by and large, the bulk of Americans don't see this problem, although it's coming to a neighborhood near you soon. And the movie is designed to basically shock people into realizing that we have to put an end to this. We need to get President Trump back in office, and within weeks he'll have the place shut down again, and then we can deal with the problem of what do we do with the criminal migrants that are still in our country.
Oh, absolutely, sir. We have to get our arms around this problem. I ran on it in 2014 as my number one platform issue: border security and illegal immigration. So we got to take a break, sir, and we'll take a question from the live audience on the backside of this break. Before I want to dive in with you a little bit about where our priorities need to be to get this man elected so we can re-implement the right policies and secure our border. I'm Rob Maness, talking with Veterans for Trump National Spokesman, retired Admiral Chuck Kubic, about Border Invasion, a new movie documentary that they've put out, and the issues that we need to be facing going into win in November and get Donald J. Trump reelected again. We'll be right back on Patriot.tv.
Joining me at the news desk now is Rebecca Walzer of WalzerWealth.com. She has been a regular guest on my TV show, Brennan House Live, for a long time. She's not just an economics expert, but she's an attorney. Rebecca, you have a large firm. How many people work for your firm?
Just about 30, yes.
30. And
yes.
Tell me, how can people prepare for what's coming with the end of the dollar as we know it?
The end of the fiat system as we know it globally. We are moving to hard asset-backed currencies again. Thank the Lord, because fiat is where we get into all the problems. When you have debt-based currency, you have debt-based problems. And the United States, unfortunately, since 2020 has not stopped spending at pandemic levels. This is systemic, and it is unsustainable, and it is coming to an end, especially with the addition of Saudi Arabia and the UAE to the BRICS nations. This is what controls our petrodollar. This is the threat immediately in 2024.
For more information, WalzerWealth.com. WalzerWealth.com. She is not your traditional financial planner. Find out why at WalzerWealth.com.
We've learned through the pandemic we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
You know, he's normal. He's kind of just like us. And this is a guy who owns a lot of buildings around the world and is a billionaire, but that's what that's his base, right? That's the people who feel like they're getting screwed in this country. Ali Legge is with us now. She is Veterans for Trump, and I had a chance to talk to her earlier before the speech. You were there at CPAC. So, Ali, what were you thinking? What were you hearing as he was speaking there? How was it for you?
I think this is just a huge example of his strong leadership, right? Right now, we are seeing weakness in our Congress. We're seeing weakness everywhere in our government, from school boards all the way to Capitol Hill. His speech was a show of strong leadership and very cognitive of his cognitive ability, for sure.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. That was Ali Legge, who's a leader in Veterans for Trump down in Florida. That was at the CPAC speech that the former president gave a few weeks ago. And we're talking with the national spokesman of Veterans for Trump, Veterans for America First, retired Rear Admiral Chuck Kubic, about the new documentary Border Invasion that's premiering this weekend. And it's going to be available on all the streaming channels and services that they can get it to as soon as that premiere is complete, I think on March 9th. Well, Admiral, welcome back to the show. Let's take a question from our live audience before we dive into some political issue priorities that I want to get your take on, as we're headed to a general election now between Trump and Biden, it looks like. Go ahead, Kat.
That's good.
Go ahead, Rob. Got a question there.
Oh, good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Admiral, this is more of a redundant question or a rhetorical question for myself, but I don't know if anybody else in the audience would know this. So we all know that as of right now, it's 8 million illegals that have come over during Biden's regime. But I saw another stat the other day that was actually mind-boggling and pretty staggering, that while we have 8 million illegals coming in and we're all forced to feel bad for the dreamers and the people that want to come here and work, there's a backlog of 24 million people who have applied the right way to come here, and we're not doing anything to try and help those people come over. What is the reason and the cause of that? That to me is a staggering amount of people that want to come over and be part of the American dream. 24 million.
Well, again,
that's a great question. Go ahead.
Because the existing system for immigration has always been a long pipeline, and anybody who is working in that system is basically avoiding bringing other people in while they're working on just processing, these millions of others. I'm personally working with an Afghan family. The father had worked actually with me when I was over there as a civilian contractor working on expanding the Kabul embassy. He and his family, 3 children, one who has a blood disorder, and wife, had to flee about a year or more ago from Afghanistan into Pakistan. And he's been trying to come in legally as an Afghan refugee who basically supported the United States. And neither he nor I could even get anybody at the State Department to answer our phone calls. And so it's the whole system, I believe, of helping people who are trying to do it right has been shut down, and those resources have been, basically transferred over to helping these criminal migrants come in and trying to process them so that they would become, Biden voters in the future.
Yeah, I mean, another issue that I just heard about before we came on the show is that apparently the U.S. government has been paying for plane tickets to fly people that have used the One app to say they're asylum seekers into the United States. So we're actually importing on our tax dollars illegal aliens that are trying to jump the line in front of these 24 million people. And I'll be honest with you, sir, as I've run for the U.S. Senate on this issue as my number one issue, my biggest supporters were legal immigrants that had come through the process and were now in this country, and voters and citizens, and they are really mad about what is happening with the United States government and all of these non-governmental organizations and the cartels facilitating this, and getting in front of the line in front of people that have done it the right way is just another reason to oppose it.
Yeah, it's even worse than that, Rob, because what Trump is going to have to do is not only reinstitute the controls to keep people from coming in illegally, we have a situation where all of this money is being siphoned from Health and Human Services and being laundered through NGOs, groups like Catholic Charities and others, who are basically making huge amounts of money, paying themselves huge salaries to take care of all of the needs of these migrants that come across, so that they don't stack up at the border and they get put into hotels, they get moved once they get here. One of the things we have to do is shut that flow of money down, tell those people to pack it up and go home. And when the people come across, put out the word, there is nobody there to help you, even if you do get through the a tightened up border. So we have this whole operation. People are making money, a lot of money as their personal salaries, and to basically be the middlemen processing these people. The cartels no longer have to worry about how they get people across the river and into the cities where they begin to disappear into gangs and things. We're doing it for them, and you're paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's turn to a little bit of breaking news, sir. Governor Nikki Haley has suspended her campaign finally. I think it's way late because we've used a lot of resources up that needed to be focused on getting Joe Biden removed from office and Donald J. Trump back in as president so he can re-implement his policies. And I would add one other thing, sir, is he's also got to implement immediately a find and deport operation that'll probably go on for the entire 4 years of his term once he does get in office, in addition to all the other things that we've got to do to make the corrections on these policies. But so now Trump's got over 900 delegates from Super Tuesday last night. Haley's gone. She's out. Her voters, most of them didn't matter anyway because it's been proven they were Democrats through various polling mechanisms, and that's been confirmed. The border invasion has got to be at least the number one issue. What are the other three issues? I've heard him talk about energy dominance, aka the economy, a lot, and I've also heard him talk about stop the endless wars and stop the killing, which are the same things that I talk when I talk about him and what he's running for. I use those same set of core issues. Do you see that as it's going to change as we go into the general, or is he going to keep up the drumbeat on those?
Well, I think the border security, the economic, security, security in our cities. I mean, America, we're finding ourselves, our security is under attack, our economy is under attack, and our culture is under attack. But we also now are going to be looking at, I think, increased threats from abroad. When Trump was president, we had, contained China, we had restrained Russia, and we were sustaining peace, in the Middle East. All of that has fallen apart. Earlier today, I heard that now we've had a Barbados registered ship actually take casualties from a Houthi missile strike. And I think it was just last week that we had Chinese ships ramming Philippine ships in the South China Sea who are trying to reprovision their forces on one of the Philippine islands. And so there's a sense behind there that as we get closer and closer, all of these things could begin to erupt. And we were going to have just so many things that we know were taken care of when Trump was president, that he has to be elected again. Otherwise, our country is going to go almost into a political dark age, I think.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that in less than 3 years, all of that has fallen apart completely. And now, people like you and I, national security professionals, are thinking about how do we reestablish things like nuclear deterrence over a Russian, Chinese, Iran, North Korea alliance. That we weren't even thinking about that really to a great extent, other than containing China, keeping Iran restrained through economic power. And kind of working with the Russians in part, and keeping an eye on them. The entire geopolitical and nuclear or national security situation has changed. And as we go into March towards November 4th, sir, how do we keep people motivated so they don't get complacent? folks like you and I that pay attention to these things, we're motivated. But we've got to get the low information voter motivated and keep them that way so the eye is on the prize that 47 is named Donald J. Trump.
Well, one of the things we're looking to do as Veterans for America First, Veterans for Trump, is to issue a call to action to all veterans. We're expanding our network. The guest that you just had on, who was reporting from CPAC, it's going to be people like her who are willing to speak out, are willing to go into the cities, not just the places where we have a lot of America First voters, but go into areas where we can explain to them. We need to be out there. We need to be looking to get out the vote, but we also need to be reaching out to others who know internally that life is not as good as it was 4 years ago, and help them to understand that the only way out of the situation we see ourselves and they see themselves in is to elect Donald Trump president again. So we have a big outreach program that we have to do. We need to organize. And although, we look to America to take care of our veterans, and you and I know how important that is, at this point in time, we're going to have to ask our veterans to take care of America. We know they're not bashful. We know they're willing to stand up and talk. We need to make sure that that message gets through to those people who are still not committed to Trump, although we have an awful lot of people who are just, totally committed to electing him president, as shown by the results yesterday.
Well, thanks very much for joining us today. We'll get this out to as many people as possible, Admiral, and that's right. Veterans and law enforcement officers and first responders, we're leaders. We're leaders in our community. We're leaders in our country, and we're going to take the lead on this election. And we will go into areas and talk to groups and crowds and individual voters that may not be committed yet, or just need to hear what the plan is so that we can get this man elected and get this country back on track, which really is getting the world back on track and away from World War III. That was Veterans for Trump National Spokesman Admiral Chuck Kubic talking with the Rob Maness Show today, premiering The Border Invasion on March 9th. So keep your eye out on all the streaming services for that movie, especially right here at Patriot.tv. Tomorrow is Truth Thursday. Watch out. It's going to be a doozy. I'm Rob Maness. We'll see you later.